Qualys has brought together vulnerability management and patch management, letting security teams discover vulnerabilities and apply patches immediately, all within a single, unified app. Sign up for a free trial of Qualys VMDR, vulnerability management, detection, and response today at securityweekly.com/Qualys. Keeping up with security issues across thousands of web assets without the right approach to web application security is a daunting task. Get ahead with web vulnerability scanning automation from NetSparker, a leader in dynamic and interactive application security testing, known for its ease of use and accurate results. Detect a wide range of vulnerabilities in all legacy and modern web applications, address security bugs at scale by automating the confirmation process, automatically prioritize vulnerabilities, and assign actionable tickets to the right developers in their native workflows for rapid remediation. For more information on how to scale application security with ease, visit securityweekly.com/NetSparker. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. We're more than happy to announce that we'll be at InfoSec World 2021 in person on October 25th through the 27th. Our annual partnership with InfoSec World is extra special as we are both business units under the Cyber Risk Alliance. That means Security Weekly listeners and InfoSec World attendees get to hear and see many of us from the Security Weekly team, and of course save 20% off your World Pass by visiting securityweekly.com/ISW 2021, and you can register with our discount code. We've been joined by the illustrious Joff Thayer. He's here with us. Joff, welcome.
Good day, good evening, and hello to everybody. It is good to be here. I've been out for a couple of weeks. I've actually been traveling. It's a weird thing.
It's good. But glad you got a little R&R in there.
Yeah, did. I got kicked back in California for a while. I was.
Although look like you were working while you were relaxing.
Yeah,
working.
Right, air quotes, right?
Air quotes. Working.
Funny years. No, it was a lot of fun, and it was really good. I just have to say, for those who missed out on Way West, Hackenfest in Reno, oh man, what a great event. I know Tyler and Lee were there, and it was just so good to see everybody face to face. It was so weird, but awesome. Good at the same time.
Joining us now is Haseeb Awan, the CEO of Efani Incorporated, an engineer by profession. He has a master's degree in engineering management and joins us today to shed light on the rise of SIM swapping attacks. Haseeb, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Haseeb, how did you get your start in information security?
I got hacked 4 times. And I had no other option.
Exactly 4 times. I love it. It's great.
So I had no option, and I was SIM swapped left and right. And so I realized that why is this such a big problem? So I solved the problem. And I realized I'm not the only one. So the company kept on growing, and I realized, okay, I guess we have a business here. Mm. But this was probably the least field I would like to go 2 years ago. Now I love it, but at that time I said, okay, what a poor business, right? You have to secure people by scaring them, because people will not buy the product if they're not concerned about it. So it's just crazy.
Describe for our audience a SIM swapping attack, and then if you could elaborate on some of the history behind it.
So first of all, I'll tell you what SIM swap attack is, and think about you have a carrier. Without taking any carrier name, you have Disney carrier, ABC carrier. And so what happens is if you lose your phone, you can go to them and they will get you a new SIM card. Happens all the time. So what happened is the criminals who will pretend they're you either will bribe or they will just do social engineering, walk up to a store and call their customer service and basically SIM swap someone. And the way they do it is they say, hey man, I lost my SIM card. This is my ID. And give me a new SIM card. So the person who's in charge or customer service, he'll just give them a new SIM card. And the next thing that happens is anytime someone calls you, it goes to that person. The way people use it is to hack people, because if you look at our telephone number is now our identity. We start with social security number, but our telephone number have more identities linked to that than anything else. If you look at your Facebook, your email, your ride sharing apps, everything is linked to your telephone number. You can literally go on any website and say, forgot your password. And the last option would be, let me send you a text message to reset your password. So they do that. They go into your bank account. Cryptocurrency has been like a main focus, but now they start going to bank accounts, your social media, getting into different kind of random accounts, and basically, first of all, hurting you financially. So taking away everything you have. Then they will take over all the data, get control of it, then ask for ransom. And the third thing is, if once you pay them everything, they will probably dump your data in the dark web anyways.
It's interesting. What were the first kind of instances of SIM swapping? I've never actually looked into the history of it.
So I don't know if there's like a specific date. The famous one was Michael Turpin, where Michael Turpin is one of the guys. I think he lost like $25 million in a SIM swap. And that was like, starting point of when it become big, because he sued a carrier for $25 million or something. And the lawsuit is now like $250 million or something, I believe. That was a major case. But other than that, I think since I've been in the industry for almost like just over a year, I get across maybe 2 cases per week where people have lost excess of a few $100,000.
Wow.
So I would say that just in my information, probably there are 10 people who get SIM swapped every day, maybe 200 people, I don't know. But the people I talk to are, they only reach out to me if the loss is pretty big and if they're not embarrassed to share about the loss.
Don't the major carriers require that you set up a PIN number in order to do a SIM swap?
That's correct. But the thing is, the customer service representative have access to bypass everything. And so if you lost your phone and you don't have your PIN, do you think they will not give you a SIM card? And for the people who believe that I'm not correct, they can just walk into a store and pretend they are them and see how far can they go without providing a PIN.
That's interesting.
And I'll give you a simple example. You can walk up to a store, they're everywhere, and tell them I want to upgrade my device. And they will upgrade your device. There's actually dark web places for folks, probably everyone on the podcast will know what dark web is, where you can go and bribe people. So for $500, you can take over anyone's SIM card.
That's really interesting.
I saw that being run as a scam in Indonesia. They were offering to people tourists were coming out of airports and things, and they had people there and they're saying, hey, let us fix your phone. And there were legitimate things like this too, but they said that there's people there and they're saying, let us fix your phone. And they're basically swapping out your SIM, and they're keeping your SIM and giving you a new SIM. And while you're renting this phone from them, they've got your SIM for however many days you're there until you bring it back.
Wow.
Well, that I never heard about, to be honest. This was still something new to me. But what I've heard is that what I've gone through is like, you work in an office and one of your colleagues will take out your SIM card and give you a new SIM card. So you would not even know for a few days that you actually got SIM swapped. Because what happened is every time you make a call, it spoofs the call. So you probably do not even know that the call is being spoofed, because their only goal is to receive a text message in most of the cases. So there's a call forwarding. So that works pretty good too. So yeah, that happens. I've seen that. That's pretty common.
Haseeb, the carriers don't try to tie a SIM to an IMEI of the phone. I know there is some relationship there, and it's changed over time, and it's different on Apple versus Android, correct?
No, so it's not an Apple versus Android thing. It's a carrier setting that you can allow, but carriers don't enforce it. So we do that. In our carriers, obviously, when you take out a SIM card from one phone to another phone, it will just block it. But the carriers do not offer it. There used to be something called PUC code, if you guys remember, but they don't implement it anymore. It has been something in the past.
What was it called?
You have the ability to do
passcode.
So. Passcode.
Yeah. So there's a passcode. Yeah. There was a passcode you could put on your SIM. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But carriers do not offer it anymore. And then there's no option to tie your phone. So you can literally take out your phone. And a lot of people will say, That's not possible. So you can take out your phone and put a new SIM card, and it will still work because as long as the phone's compatible. And the reason they did it because of convenience. We were talking about convenience with the guest before the call, that people will compromise security and privacy over convenience.
Yeah, the carriers basically got too many support calls with the passcodes on the SIM cards.
Oh, yeah, people would lose them all the time because I've had people ask, could we recover that forensically?
Right.
Because they lost the passcodes and pins and other things like that.
Now, there's another attack similar to SIM swapping that's used for SMS multi-factor, spoofing, right? Where you're essentially signing up for a service, entering a phone number, and then SMS messages are being passed through a third party to multiple numbers, and it's almost like forwarding, correct? That was one of the more recent ones from like March or April that we kind of looked into.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember the name of the service.
Correct. So what happened is you can certainly do that. You can take over a SMS number. That patch has been fixed for majority of the carriers. But yes, that's correct. It was discovered by Lucky227. He's a pretty he's a pretty famous white hacker, and he discovered that exploit. So you can register a number online, and so it's like you sign up for an account. So I'll give you an example. You sign up for like an email account, but without them verifying your email account, they will give you access to receive and send messages on that.
Apple has different protections, maybe not with the SIM card, but with the Apple passcode. Does that pass through the SIM card, or does it pass through? That passes through iMessage, right?
No. So Apple has a different thing, right? So Apple, if you take out the phone from a SIM card from a phone, iMessage will still work.
Yeah.
So if you're SIM swapped, you would not know. That's why a lot of people would not know they have been SIM swapped, because how many times do we actually make a text or call? We either use like Wipes or like WhatsApp, Signal, Whisper, and all those apps, and we don't use like actual calls. And there's actually a call, so people just take out a SIM card and forward to your actual number, that the new number they provided.
So does that mean that does that mean utilizing something like iMessage or Signal in favor of like a secondary number in favor of, say, a traditional SMS where we're using like the S7 network? Like that seems like a much better route to go if we're going to have to leverage multi-factor authentication on something like that, is having a traditional, HTTPS or server internet-backed phone number associated to something like that. I know a lot of places block that, such as Google Voice, right? You can't sign up for like a Gmail account with a Google Voice number for authentication. But that seems like it's a more secure method of doing this rather than relying on the traditional S7 networks.
S7 networks were never meant to be like security. Like if you look at cell phones, it was never meant to be secure, right? Like, 10, 15 years ago, people were using cell phones we had pagers, and text messaging was a big thing. You can send someone a message rather than paging someone. And then we had, so to your question, S7 is certainly will be always vulnerable to attack. I can tell you we have fixed something where we are able to detect S7 attacks as well, and that's our specialty. However, obviously iMessage is much secure than anything, but the way iMessage works is you cannot have APIs the same way you can have for SMS. It's almost impossible for you to, connect your, like Twilio or like send mass messages, because then ID will get blacklisted. It's slightly complicated. Apple has a very closed loop system, and then you don't know if the other person is using iPhone or any other device.
I'm wondering, excuse me, are the eSIMs any less susceptible to the SIM swapping?
No, actually, they're more susceptible, because with eSIM, you don't even have to walk to a store. You can just scan your phone and activate it from anywhere in the world. At least with the eSIM, with the regular SIM card, you have to have a physical control. But this is actually even worse. You just scan a code and you're done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boom.
There was also a case, Haseeb, where if you had a valuable asset that was then protected by something like a second factor with your phone, that you were more likely to be attacked. In the case I remember reading, sticks in my mind for whatever reason, is random people that just happened to own a 3-letter Twitter account were getting SIM swapped and basically they would hold it hostage until they transferred that 3-letter Twitter account away, because they could then turn around and sell that 3-letter Twitter account for a lot of money.
Absolutely, there was, and it still happens. If you remember, 6 months ago, there was a big attack on Twitter where a lot of login was stolen, and they were asking for Bitcoin donations and everything. Elon Musk account, I think, Joe Biden account, and like there were probably 50 or 60 main accounts that they were hacked. So I was part of that people who basically were able to attack that before it happened. There's actually an OG user forum where it was being sold. So you can, even up today, you can request a username and you can buy it. I think the Daniel username, if I'm not wrong, Daniel username is still held hostage, and I can search for it. But I made a list of people whose accounts were being sold, and it was all random kinds of account. But absolutely, that's the market still exists, so you can still do that today.
Are there other things that make you more susceptible to SIM swapping? Based on what you have, or just poor security in general?
Correct. Yeah, so it was Daniel account. It's just it's suspended right now, but it was one of the accounts which was sold. Because people, with any service, they will register an email account or do something, and they never used it. So that happens. So to answer your question, SIM swap is one of the attacks. I think the other attacks are IMG strangler devices. I have this in my house right now, and I have a lot of computers on my back and everything. We do this all the time. Is that SS7 attacks, which are very easy to carry on, and not just its impact. You can have more secure cell phone, you can have SIM swapping protection, but someone can install an IMG catcher and bypass everything, and that becomes a bigger attack. We can have location-based attack, where you can find someone location by just sending them a picture. And the way it works is when you send an email, you can attach a pixel in that. And whenever someone opens that pixel, whenever someone will open that picture, it will show a location, right? That's how a pixel works in email. Similar to that, you can have the same pixel in a SMS or MMS or picture as well. The moment you get a text message, the other person will just get a location of this person. So that attack is very common. It's used mostly for kidnapping and killing people. And obviously it doesn't happen a lot in US as it happens in other countries. But it's very, very risky, where you can just find someone's number, do a ping response, and as soon as you get a ping back, it will tell you the location of the person. And we have 20 other types of attacks to malware injection. So if you have one of the strangler devices, you can inject packets into people's cell phones and attach extra information, and you can extract a lot of information as well.
And does that require proximity to your victim, or are you riding on the network in order to do that?
Depends on what attack you're running. So if you're running a location base, you don't need proximity. You can attack anywhere in the world from anywhere in the world. It's 80-90% chance that you'll get his location, and a very precise location. It's not he's in this city. It will just say exactly he's on this street or within maybe 2 or 3 meters. It doesn't require any proximity. But for IMG catcher, yes, you need proximity, almost half a mile, depending on how big your radar detector is.
Yikes!
So you got hacked 4 times. So how did you stop that from continuing, so that you're not saying you got hacked 8 times? So because I'm kind of I want to know. So
yeah. So my history was so I made a joke, right? And I said, what is the rocket science behind SIM swapping? If you look at it, why does it SIM swapping happens too often. Like why? I'm a telecom engineer actually. And I started looking into, it's just a process. Processes are broken. So I make a joke that we actually removed a feature to build a product. A lot of time when you build a product, you say, hey, I have this feature, and you add a feature. SIM porting and SIM swap is basically a feature that has been mandated by FCC. So it's not like, like 10, 15, 20 years. Like, in the early days, you could not like change carrier. So if you are on a specific carrier, you stay with that carrier. And then because there was a contract and people don't want to change cell phones, so that's why FCC said that you need to have this feature where anyone can take their number anywhere that they want. Mm-hmm. But that feature became a mess. So now we just removed the feature. So I said, okay, I started my own MVNO. It's like a virtual carrier. Like think of running a Dropbox on top of AWS. Anyone can start that. And I said, okay, our feature is that we disabled the feature. And after that, I gave my number to multiple hacking forums and a lot of places. And I said, I think I want to hack this person. Can you hack it for me? So, and every time there was an attempt, I would block it. So after like 30 to 40 attempts, I believe, I got pretty comfortable that, okay, I can now protect the people. And then I started asking people on, do you want this service? People signed up. I think in the first week I had like 10 or 12 signups. But more interestingly, some people's SIMs were hacked actually. And they will call me like middle of the night. Hey, I got SIM swapped. Can you help me out? And what I started doing was, because we were a kind of a carrier, we were able to SIM swap them again. Mm. So we would start taking numbers from the people who hacked them. And that became my kind of a claim to fame that if you are SIM swapped, you will talk to Haseeb and I'll take your number back. So that's how we started, to be honest. Knock, being a year, we blocked like dozens of attacks maybe per week for our customers. I think there was attacks today too. We just informed the customer, hey, we have this issue. Is this you? And if they say this is me, then we go for external verification.
Does services like Google-Fi, where they're leveraging multiple disparate networks and essentially proxying some of the IMEI traffic through their service to other providers' towers and backends, does that provide any protection, or does that provide any additional risk? And can you still protect those kinds of services and access?
No, this had nothing to do with it. The reason why Google-Fi is so popular is because it's cheaper. That's certainly becoming a number one choice of any kind of carrier. The only thing is they're working with multiple carriers. They used to work with 3 carriers, but 2 carriers got merged. So now they're working with 2 carriers, and they switches between those networks. And I think they have eSIM as well. So it has absolutely zero impact. They have their own VPN. And if you look at the terms and conditions, I think they say that this is like they consume like 10% more data. But the reason they are able to subsidize the cost is because they can sell and monetize the data. So overall, it has no impact on security. The only impact on security is because Google uses what's called advanced security protection. And because of that, you can secure your account. But I've heard that people got bypassed that too. But it's like kind of a 2-in-1. If you have someone email address, you get a telephone number for free. And phishing attacks happen a lot of times.
Are there, other than social engineering, what are some more common ways that people are doing SIM swapping attacks?
Bribing, right? Like there's a prices online. You can go and pay someone $500, and you can buy someone call logs. You can buy someone location. You can buy. There are websites who are advertising this, so you can find someone location. Or if you go to dark web, you'll find 50 SIM swaps for like $10,000. Let's give an example.
And you think they have insiders that work for the cell providers?
Yeah. The guys who work for $10 per hour, he'll happily take $500 for 5 minutes job without any. Like, okay, he said the person just showed up. I did like, Jessica or Haseeb's phone, and the person just showed up. Now the worst you can do is fire the person. But there's no proof that he did it for malicious purpose. It's just a mistake.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's carriers have their work cut out to prevent these attacks in some of the scenarios you just described, right?
Well, and they have
absolutely.
I was going to say, and they have storefronts all over the world, all over every city, and they're typically run by low-end employees who have all kinds of access for customer service reasons. Mm-hmm. So I can see how that happens.
And a lot of people say, hey, I have pins and everything. I said, regardless of whatever you do, if the guy who holds the key is a corrupt or is incompetent, regardless of how many protection you put in, it's like firewall. If the guy who's installing a firewall does not know what he's doing, he actually makes you more vulnerable.
It actually has roots that go back to the telephone system in the early 1900s. There's this kind of famous case where there was 2 coroners in the town. And the wife of one of the coroners was the telephone switch operator. And I mean, these are back in the days where she had to physically connect calls, right? In the boards. And if anyone called up the coroner in the town, she would just route the call to her husband's business and connect him to that coroner. And all of a sudden, this coroner sitting there in the town going, my business just like dropped off by more than half. All of a sudden, like, what's going on? And finally figured out that was happening. And the victim in this attack actually developed, like, really got into this and was like, you know what? And developed one of the first telephone electronic switches. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, like, these types of scams, Haseeb, you're talking about today kind of remind me, it's actually one of the books I'm reading now about, early phone freaking and telephone system kind of scamming. They went deep into the, like, how it transitioned from the telegraph company and the telephone company. But that was one of the first, like, kind of scams that happened. Oh. And it seems like very similar kind of style attacks are still happening today with people as the weakest link.
Yeah, we tapped the RA's phone in a dorm one time because before they came up there to bust everybody for parties, they would call the RA. Mm-hmm. So we cross-wired it so it would ring on our line too because the closet wasn't locked.
Yeah,
and so
there's your SIM swapping attack right there.
If the phone rang, yeah, exactly. You pick it up and they're going Paul. And it's like the guy's name was Paul, but it was like yeah, he's not here right now. Can I take a message? And they're like, yeah, tell him we're coming up. It's like, oh yeah, I'll tell him. It's like.
Everyone hide.
Yeah. Run!
If you remember the days of like early internet, right? Like not like far, even like in 2000, the shopping carts were in plain text. People are storing credit card numbers and PII in plain text.
Yep.
And you can literally go on Google and find CV2, website name and CV2, and Google will crawl the website and give you the CV2 and every information on the card. That's how a lot of hacking used to happen.
Yep.
So we talked about humans as the weakest link, and that things like a pin don't help much. Or am I going too far? Should we still be doing certain things even though they have limits because the humans can run our best intentions?
That's a good option, right? That's a good question. The only thing is that what I talk to this about with a lot of people is that convenience will always supersede privacy and security in 99% of the cases. We can lecture about how to build a very efficient society. We can blockchain, we can encryption and, everything. But if an average consumer is not having the same experience as he used to before, he will not use it. Mm-hmm. What we have done is, in our systems is, we actually assume that humans will fail. That's our main assumption. Haseeb will fail one day, the company will fail one day, the employees will fail. So what we have done is, can we add checks in place that if Haseeb fails, there's a court to protect. And if a court fails, there's someone else to protect. So we can set up like multiple layers of authentication and multiple layers of how account get access. That's why we only offer 1 or 2 plans on our website, because we can't make changes. The moment we have to make changes becomes so complicated for us that it's not worth it. So that's why we only start with like 1 plan. But for general consumers and general companies, it's not possible to do that. And the reason why it's not possible is because it's super complicated that you can only offer, like, all the Verizon store from tomorrow say, hey, we only offer one plan, and that's the only phone we have. Either take it or leave it. It does not work in the real world. Until they have stores all over and they do same like customized plan for everyone, I think that the fair chance that hacker will be able to get in anytime they want.
Haseeb, how does it work if I'm using your service and I buy a new phone and I want to swap it in? I have to log into your site and somehow authorize that transaction?
Correct. So in order to SIM swap someone, so there are two types of attack, right? One is port out attack. Port out attack means that you leave your carrier. So you're on carrier 1 and you move to a different carrier. That's one thing. Some companies offer that protection. I was making a joke with someone. I said, you can put your own protection for your own sake, but literally it does not matter. Like, it's so easy to bypass. The second thing is people do SIM swapping within the network. So you are already on a network and you pretend that you just lost your phone. So these are two things. Now, other thing is that when people look at our service, we actually are SIM swapping someone as well. So if you sign up online, we sell you a SIM card and you give us your account number and we'll transfer your phone to our service now. So you may run on the network that you have because we have contact with every major carrier. So you can say, I want carrier X, so we'll switch you on carrier X. And our expensive plans, our platinum plans, they switch between networks. So if one carrier is missing, it will move to a second carrier. But everything is mostly done online for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So your service sit on top of the carrier, or is it a separate whole carrier?
No. There's no way we're able to build a new carrier. So yes, we sit on top of two largest carriers in US. So at time of like signing up, we ask you which carriers you want to use, and you decide which carrier you want to use, and you go from there.
I see. Interesting.
So we just make a joke, like, think about your current carrier but secure.
That's a good marketing line. Well, yeah, but it's good. Yeah. It's a monitoring service as well, right? Because I get the telemetry that the attacks are happening, where you wouldn't get that with just a regular carrier.
Correct. And the easiest example is like having a bulletproof Rolls Royce. You want a Rolls Royce, but you're also security conscious. So now either Rolls Royce will produce all the cars in the world, or they will just depend on companies like ours to, like come to a specialized car. Not every Mercedes is a Brabus. Not every G-Wagon is a Brabus. So that's where we come in. And that's why we don't say that we're for everyone. We only say we are only for important people, or 1.9% people.
Pretty awesome.
Makes me want to sign up.
Yeah, right.
Now I got more services.
Now we got more
sign
up.
Yeah, and you're happy to sign up. Like, we just say, hey, people don't. If you want to sign up, you can just. Our service comes with 60 days money back guarantee. The funny reason you believe that we are not the right fit, we'll give you 100% money back. And every customer comes with a $500 insurance policy backed by Lords of London. So for some reason, you got hacked, like hypothetically, you get up to $500 in losses coverage. So other carriers will say, hey, we don't have anything to do with your loss. We say, no, we have to do everything with your loss. So yeah, that's what we do. The process is still like pretty manual. So you still have to call us in and we have to do everything over the phone. But people like it because they like the human connection there, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting to see. You could spend a lot of time creating new numbers for things like that, or sign up for your service and just protect your number that you have, right? I know I've spoken to people that go to great lengths to protect their identity, and they end up creating different phone numbers and email addresses and all that stuff for everything they sign up for, and that's one approach. But that is a lot of maintenance and very labor intensive compared to your service, Haseeb.
Absolutely. Like I have like literally 4 phones with me right now. Right? And I have 1 or 2 phones on the side somewhere as well. So I do that but I do mostly for testing, and if you see on my back, you will see maybe like 4 or 5 laptops too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So I am kind of paranoid, but absolutely that's the problem with the security is a lot of people don't realize. They say, I want to buy a Fani, but I want to have a separate number. And I said, don't buy it. We would not sell it to you because that makes you more vulnerable than less vulnerable. And the reason for that is because people, it's like having a work laptop. A lot of people will say, hey, I have one laptop for work and one laptop for entertainment. And then they end up using one laptop because it's not convenient. Like user experience is everything. So if people keep two phones, they make themselves more vulnerable. Like my question to everyone is that, okay, which number would you give if you go to, which number would you give in if you go to, what do you call a doctor? Is it your second number? Is it first number? Oh, obviously I'll give my second number. Okay, so what will happen if you are away from phone? Oh, actually I'll give my first number. Okay, which number will you go if you sign up for reward points? I'll give my first number. Okay, which number you will go? So that becomes confusing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then people will just basically screw up and they will not be able to secure themselves.
Yeah, what you end up with is more attack surface, right?
Yeah.
As you're like, I'm going to have, 5 laptops and 5 phones, and each of them are going to have a specific purpose. But what you're ending up with now, instead of 2 devices to secure, is you've got 10 devices to secure, and you've got, exponentially more work.
Correct. For me, the laptop, because I know we have to test phones, we have to test coverages. So we have okay, man, let's test it out with this SIM card. It's mostly for testing purposes, but for personally, I only keep one number. And I say it's okay to be. People think the other way. People say we want to be private and not secure, because if we are private, we don't need security. So if we have a number that no one has, but it doesn't work this way, because the person we had before our call, all the data get aggregated, so it's like a bucket, a big bucket, and in that bucket, every data goes thrown into that bucket, and the more data that goes into that bucket, it's it become more and more populated. So to answer your question is that if you get a new number, you may get to the doctor, and there's a doctor data breach in the doctor office. And what happened is, okay, now you have another number there as well. So just keep it simple, have one number, and that's it. Don't complicate your life, because I have seen that the people who spend 2 hours or 3 hours researching which password manager should I use, never use password manager.
Yeah.
Or which YubiKey I should use, which FIDO2 standard versus FIDO standard, and they will never do it.
No, it's true. Sometimes we do get caught up in the loop of the perfect solution and the perfect thing, and we research, and then we end up just not doing anything because we can't make up our minds.
Next thing you know,
or we have our RDP open on your MacBook, and you have iMessage with SMS available.
You've got all the windows covered with tinfoil, but you still open the front door when somebody rings the bell.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct. So they just get confused. So I just say that if we, to be honest, spend half an hour, we can make ourselves better than 99.99% of the world.
Mm. Yeah. My other question was, some of the phones that have come out recently have the ability to support multiple SIM cards. That doesn't really help with privacy or security along the lines of this conversation, right? That's more for you want to support multiple carriers because you're traveling, basically.
Correct. So I'll tell you the reason for that. eSIM is basically the future. And the reason why eSIM is the future is because carriers do not have to spend money, right? Shipping the cost.
Yeah.
We have a shipping cost. Every time I ship a cost, I may have to pay $10 for packaging and FedEx and all this cost. And some customers may not want to transfer it. And so there's a cost associated. We have high margins, but a lot of companies do not have that margin. They are just competing for $2. So if they spend $10 on shipping, that means that 5 months of their profit is gone. And they don't even know if the customer will stay for 5 months or not. So that's the first reason. It will basically disappear. The second part, it will make switching SIM cards so easy that people can just switch between carriers without having issue. So that's why carriers do not like it. So you are with carrier 1 and you don't like carrier 1 for some reason, you don't have to go to a store. You can just literally go online. Within 10 minutes, you'll switch to carriers. So that's why there'll be a lot of more churn on that. But other than that, dual SIM card is not an alien concept in Asia. People do have dual SIM card. The reason why they have dual SIM card there is because of the rates. Because in a lot of countries, if you call outside the network, it's a different price. So I'll give you an example, like if you're on carrier 1 and you call carrier 2, it will be a different price, but carrier to carrier is separate. So they will have multiple SIM cards in their phone to call the random person. So if someone is on carrier 2, they'll use carrier 2.
Gotcha. What's your favorite?
But yeah, also for traveling. Traveling, one thing is because a lot of times you're traveling and pretty much we need data while we're traveling. So it's just convenient to just scan a QR code and you're done. You can literally buy a SIM card while on the airport through Wi-Fi, and you have an eSIM that works.
But what's your take on cell phones today? On smartphones, what's your favorite one? Does it matter as much today when you get into phones? Are they all kind of leveled out?
They all kind of level out, and I've probably noticed I've used like maybe 50 plus cell phones for testing and other purpose in the last 2 years. The problem that I see with the cell phones is that, this is about like Apple. Apple, I think, is a very secure product, even though they're a very good product. Samsung, the problem is they do allow people to hack into the devices, and that becomes a bigger problem. And I've seen a lot of people who have installed their custom ROM, so you can build a custom ROM of Android and basically send it to people and cell phones. But the problem with that is such a low margin business, and people want to have upgraded phone all the time. So if you start reducing functionality on the phone, so I'll give you an example. If you say, okay, Google will not track me, okay, which map will you use? The people like Google Maps. People say, oh, I don't want to give them my telephone number, but you want to call Uber. Now, how is Uber driver will find you if you don't have a GPS activated on that?
Right.
So it becomes complicated. And you may want to search for a favorite restaurant, right? Okay, what's the favorite sushi? And if your phone shows that, okay, you are in, somewhere else, you are in Tel Aviv, obviously you don't want to find Tel Aviv, or you're in Tokyo, you don't want to Tokyo restaurant, you want to find something in San Francisco. So those phones exist there. They're good phones. I wish if you had a better BlackBerry today, one of my favorite phones. And obviously, like communicators, Nokia communicators were I love those phones, but they don't exist right now. We literally have two options. One is either we go with the Android or just iOS. And with Android, it just depends on what hardware do you want to use, to be honest. Because all ROMs are almost the same.
So, on a slightly different topic, I noticed on your website you have a bug bounty program. How's that working for you?
We have not got any bug bounties. The time we get it because the website is. So we have on the website we do get bugs from time. I think we have got like 4 or 5, but they're normally not for not like in security. So what we do is we are now moving our server. So we start with just for front end we had a WordPress, and people will just discover a WordPress vulnerability and they will run scan on websites, and they'll say, hey, can you pay me $50 for this thing? And sometimes they don't even know if the vulnerability exists. I'll give you an example. The last bug bounty that we received, he said, oh, you don't have a CAPTCHA on your website. Yes, we don't, but we use Google Invisible CAPTCHA. You don't need to physically type a CAPTCHA. That's one thing. Or, hey, you have access. It's all random stuff because our actual thing is totally different from our cell phones. What we do is, because we cannot rely on bug bounty, so we have to hire our own pen testing. And when we get a pen test, we basically they evaluate everything. One bounty that I did was I gave my number. I'm happy to do it again too. But I give my number and I say, okay, hack this number, and we give you 1 Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that bounty varies from hour to hour.
From day to day, hour to hour.
Well, that's your thing, right? I calculated my net worth in Bitcoins. So.
But I'm guessing by your story, you haven't given away any Bitcoins yet.
I wouldn't be selling $100 fin plan if I would not have.
Got it.
So, no, but I do. You're not from Irish, right?
That remains to be seen.
Okay. Sure.
Next subject.
So, yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if you know that I actually made one of the first Bitcoin ATM companies. We have one of the largest operations in the world.
How does that work? A physical, not a physical ATM, obviously, right?
It's a physical ATM.
Really? That's really cool. You have to send us pictures.
Yeah, we'd like to see that.
Yeah, so you can literally go online, type BitAccess, BITACCESS. That was my first company, and we own one of the largest networks in the world. You can just literally go on, go to a machine and buy Bitcoins, and we are selling them from Bitcoin worth like 2 digits.
It's awesome. Any more questions for Haseeb? Haseeb, are you ready to play 5 questions with Security Weekly?
Go ahead.
3 words to describe yourself.
Wow. That's tough, right? Because my vocabulary isn't the best of the best, but I trust easily. I get excited a lot of times, and sometimes I'm very impatient.
If you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Probably a stringer device where I'll just block communication.
If you were to, sorry.
Yeah.
If you were to,
I'll just block the communication. People will probably die without their cell phone.
That's awesome. If you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
Oh shoot, that's tough.
The Faraday Killer.
The title would be. Sorry.
The Faraday Killer.
I think the book will be, I think I wanted to write a book. I said it will be probably entrepreneurship around commercial. If people think about how to build a better product.
What is your favorite hacker movie?
Wow, hacker movie. I didn't think about it. I think that it's not a hacker movie, but I like the show Money Heist. Heist Money or something. I like that show.
Money Heist,
Yeah.
Choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Alive, dead, fictional, or otherwise.
Oh wow. One would be what was the hero in Peter Pan? I forgot the name. My mother would probably be Angelina Jolie, and my father would be Peter Pan movie guy. It just skipped out of my mind.
Tinkerbell. No.
You mean Hook?
The pirate?
No.
The alligator.
I forgot. Anyway.
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
No, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams.
Oh, okay, Robin
very
Williams.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Haseeb, thank you so much for appearing on Paul Security Weekly.
Pleasure is all mine, right? Happy to share more whenever I want. Huge fan of your show. But one thing I want to talk to a lot of people is that where I want to walk away with you. Telephone number is becoming our identity now. If you spend like 20 minutes, maybe we can just get rid of a lot of issues, because I deal with a lot of cases every week, and you don't have to buy my service. Just make sure that go to the email, Facebook, any account, and do a password reset, and make sure your telephone number is not there. And if you go for Google Authenticator or any Authy or any other software, make sure that your telephone number is not as a backup option. That's all.
That's good advice.
Please do it.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Haseeb, thank you so much. Coming up next, the security news. Stay tuned.